All right, on this episode, Eric and I get into it. We talk about some specific software in our industries, and we talk about financial regulation, literacy, and to what extent we need it or don't.
Stay tuned.
All right, welcome to this episode number 40 of Finance and Technology Insights. I'm Brian Williams from Northshire Consulting. He's Eric Buhrendorf of EVERNET. What's happening, Eric?
What's going on, Bri? The news cycle has been uninteresting to me in large part. I mean, I know that this whole FTX thing is developing, but to be honest with you, I kind of don't have much interest in it.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing was he was at the Deal Book. Is it Deal Book? Yeah, Deal Book conference last week, and he had the big CNBC interview, which he did virtually. The host of that Deal Book thing, he's the host on the morning show, Squawk Box. He's a great guy. He does a good job with the interviews, but that was sort of the first we've seen of SBF. And now since then, he's made his rounds to Good Morning America, sat down with George Stephanopoulos, and he's popped up in a couple other spots. His attorneys are like, dude, don't talk to anybody. And he's out talking to everybody and everything.
Is he still in the Caribbean, or is he?
He is. Yeah, he's still in the Bahamas. But it's really interesting to see the reactions, and you're learning a lot about people and the criminal justice system. And it is one of these sort of big picture conversations. It's like, you see some people tweet out that they, kind of feel sorry for him, or they refer to him as like a kid, or, oh, this is an innocent kid who got mixed up in the wrong, whatever, didn't really know what he was doing. And then you've got other people like, this guy's a fraudster. He needs to rot in a jail cell. And then other people will come back and say, well, what sort of, what does that accomplish by doing that? Do we think this guy is going to be a continued fraudster? So it's kind of an interesting story. And there is parts where you sort of feel sympathetic for the guy. And then there's other parts where you're reading. So one of the things that happened in the interview was they had read a letter of the guy that had lost his life savings or something, and he was in FTX International and whatever. So, there's the other side of that too, that these are real people with real money that they won't probably get back. So yeah, that was certainly a big story over the last 7 days.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I definitely philosophically or ideologically part ways to a certain degree when it comes to the threshold of buyer beware, right?
Right.
I think you tend to. Well, I won't speak for you, but I tend to. It's like what I've mentioned so many times in this show, right? That like I laugh because I laugh when there's this uproar of a market downturn, because nobody complains when things are appreciating in value, but when things depreciate in value, there's conspiracy, there's malfeasance, and people like gambling or investing is gambling, a rose by any other name, right? I mean, it is the inherent. I mean, investing, you are the idea is with investing, you are making an informed decision. And, you're buying something of perceived value or real value or, whatever. But let's face it. I mean, nobody knows what is going to happen. I mean, then that is the inherent thing about gambling. So, if you manage to find your way on the FTX, and I don't know any details about this except for a lot of money's missing and it seems, whatever, but I'm guessing that you've got people who are putting large sums of money into some sort of startup exchange that was exchanging crypto coins. There's a lot of furor about people getting rich off of cryptocurrency, but it's a market. It's a market like anything else. I mean, you're going in, you're changing money for something, you're holding it with the hope that it's going to be worth more in the future. And is it anything more than that?
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So when
The
so then when the thing reverses in value,
mhm.
why is everybody surprised?
Well, this is a difference between reversing and value, or just there being fraud, like
But where was, I guess that's why I don't know the story.
yeah,
Where's
so
the fraud?
the issue is he was taking client funds and using those as collateral to leverage up for his Almeida hedge fund, and using that to speculate on coins that were not valuable. So that's no different than, this can be a bad analogy, but it's no different than you going into your bank and then you found out your savings account was bet on the Knicks to win last night by 40.
But don't
People.
they, but all the entire financial institution does that. They take your money, they take their knowledge and opinion and acquire other equities in hopes of it
Yeah,
appreciating, right?
not with client or customer funds though. That's going to be the big thing that's ultimately his downfall is did you take client funds and do something with it that you shouldn't have? That's really what it's going to come down to
I mean,
for them.
banks do that. Banks take your deposits,
Mhm.
they redistribute that actual money to other through other channels
Mhm.
to appreciate their assets, to strengthen their brand and their company, to give you more confidence in their brand. And that's the cycle that everybody would like it to do, but that
Right.
doesn't always happen, right?
Right. And again, that's a spectrum, and they have a lot of regulatory things that they can take your deposit, loan it out to somebody who's taking a mortgage, and they can charge 6% for the mortgage, give you 2% interest on your savings account, and make money on the spread. What they can't do is take your savings account and go bet on the Knicks. That's the difference.
But
So,
that's the difference between you and I, because
yeah.
there's a lot of language and framework and bureaucracy that says betting on the Knicks is different than betting on the guy who works at IBM and is paying a mortgage. The guy could default on his mortgage.
Mhm.
It could be a bad investment. So then the guy defaults in his mortgage. I know that it's protected by the real asset, but what if there's a pop in the real estate bubble? Now the asset's worth less than the principal. So then there's a
Right.
loss. The shit rolls downhill anyways.
Mhm. Yep. But there's metrics involved that will tell
Gotcha.
you that, certain credit scores of this level will default at this level. And, they've got years of data and backing that up. And
So
um,
this is where this is where we can spar on this, right? Because I'm like,
yeah, so
language and bureaucracy and frameworks and blah blah, where really it's just like
well,
speculating.
if there's no confidence in the banking system, you can't have a functioning economy. You have to be able to know that if you go deposit $100 in the bank, that you're going to be able to get $100 back the next day. If that confidence is gone, then you're not going to have any sort of banking system, because everybody's just going to keep cash in their basement in the safe, and that's not good for anybody. So there has to be some sort of
That's
rules and regulation in place.
this is fun because that's really debatable too.
Well, I mean, if everybody had, and that's the basics of cryptocurrency, right? People say, well, this is great. This is unregulated. This is, away from the systems. But now they're kind of finding out, oh, actually, we want systems, and that's
Still not necessarily, because the current cryptocurrency has stable. It has wild fluctuations, but it's been at 16 for the last. Yes, it went up to 60 and it spiked, but again, it's probably well beyond the scope of this chat. But I agree to disagree, and it's that's my that's where I sit on that spectrum. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's definitely levels of risk, and you have to have some sort of protections in place to instill confidence. Because if you don't have any confidence, then you don't have any ability you wouldn't invest in any business, or invest in, or put any sort of money anywhere. You'd get
But
your paycheck.
that's proven not to be true, because as recently as 2008, in modern man time, I know, like, we our culture like views like the 20th century as kind of modern times,
Mhm.
as recently as 2008, an entire sector has imploded because of speculation. Lehman Brothers,
Yeah.
which was institutional, just imploded. So it's like it's just a shell game, and the regulators keep trying to it's like they're firefighting. When somebody does something stupid, they rush over there, and you got the Dodd-Frank act, and they just try to build more paper around building that confidence. And my take on it is it's that kind of thing. Like it helps the big bankers, it helps the politicians with their feel good regulations, but it's always going to be buyer beware. And if you keep saying, well, we have confidence in our system because of the framework, like I think you're just making people vulnerable by doing that. Whereas if we kept saying buyer beware, where you build this country, I think, lacks like a gross amount of financial literacy at the individual level. And I think that's born from a lot of like, oh, we've got frameworks and regulations and things, but as recently as 2011 or 2008, it was an implosion there. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to win an argument.
No, I understand. I mean, there's risks and rewards to everything, and the longer, the longer term stuff is always going to be fine.
And by the way, my position is not to put people off from investing. I mean,
no,
investing is vital. I mean,
that's the getting capital is the growth engine of the country. And if you don't have the ability to borrow or raise capital, I mean, none of these companies' ingenuity is dead. So you have to have some sort of capital markets to be able to buy and invest. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe we'll spar on this another day.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the guy that lost his life savings in FTX, do you feel bad for him on a personal level? Yeah, of course you do, because you're
1,000%
an adult and you have a heart. But as you said, I mean, that's where we agree. It's like, what is this guy doing, putting all his money in FTX? And if it quadrupled, he wouldn't be complaining it was a scam. He'd be
laughing all the way to the bank.
Right. And we don't know. He might say he lost $2 million in it, but he might have only put in $100,000, and it might have appreciated to 200 and then, or to 2 million. And then he feels like he lost 2 million. So, no, you have to separate the business side from the personal side. I feel bad for him and his family.
Totally.
From
I don't want anybody to get hurt or lose their shit.
He should have known better. Yeah.
I wish if there's any point I want to make, I wish there was more financial literacy at a, systemically in our institutions. But
I could totally nerd out on that and show you this LinkedIn post. I try not to get into too much heated stuff. I don't do too much Twitter anymore, but LinkedIn, sometimes I'll go down a path of poking a bear, but I'm not going to do that today.
Just toss a grenade in the room.
Yeah, I could show you something that was along those lines of, but we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, for sure.
So work stuff here. It's funny when I did an email marketing campaign, what I think I did. So that was, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think what I did is I put a Calendly link that was for an appointment type that had, maybe the first 3 weeks blacked out or something like that. Because all the people that ended up booking appointments were for this week, or actually last week. So there was a day when I had like 3 cold appointments from email marketing, which was kind of nice. And I had known when they booked those, it came out a little bit. So that gave me time to prepare. But it looks like 1, if not 2, I'd say 1, I'd give it maybe like a 70% chance. The other one's probably like an 80% chance, although it's kind of an iffy one as to whether it's really going to add much value to their business, but we'll see. And then the third one did the appointment and then missed the follow-up one. So could end up getting 2 out of 3 clients just from that one day kind of email marketing thing. So
nice.
So that's kind of fun. Obviously the best type of new clients you get are, from referrals, but when you're going through that chain, you end up sort of locked in that same community, so to speak. So when you get somebody outside that community from like an email marketing or from social media, it almost like plants another, seed somewhere else, and hopefully, because they don't know all of your other clients, whereas when you get a referral, with the local stuff that I do here, they probably know half the people in their network are the same
Right.
as yours. So that's nice. But it's nice to sort of branch out a little bit and plant those. I have one client that does these spider plants. So it's kind of like that. They grow big and then and then you can pull them and start them. So it's kind of like that. That's what I'm picturing in my mind. But, we were talking, before we were recording, but it might not make it into the show, but just like, trying to streamline our own videos and our own content and stuff like that. The cobbler's kids have no shoes or whatever the reference we always use. But so I've been doing a lot of videos that have been individual for companies, like onboarding videos, which is pretty neat. So I know you work in that space too. So it's nice that if people can go through their mandatory, sexual harassment training or their mandatory, email phishing training, and then also go through the onboarding video for their 401k, which in most instances now they're automatically enrolled in anyway. So we're trying to get more involved in that process, which is pretty neat. So some of those videos, there's pieces of them that I can continue to use. So, a lot of times I can just say, hello and welcome to ABC Company. Congratulations on your new job. You're automatically involved in ABC Company 401k. And then a lot of the rest of the video is the same because a lot of the plan design is the same. And then maybe at the end, I can come back in and talk about, company specifics. Maybe is, once you're here 6 months, you'll be eligible to participate in the plan. Or once you're here 3 months, you're eligible to participate in the plan. So trying to build out that video content and get that snowballing a little bit.
I don't know if you're doing this intentionally or not, but that's exactly the thing I'm going to be talking about today for my stuff.
No, because we didn't even talk about that. But yeah, I mean it's
That's
all
so funny.
those leveraging that repeatable content, repeatable tasks. And as I talked about,
How are you? Can I ask, how are you administering the videos? Through what mechanization are you administering those videos?
Yeah, so I actually use YouTube and use the private link. Let me make sure I get the terminology right, because there is a little bit of a confusing terminology there. But when you upload a new video, that can be public, which is probably 99.9% of the videos, and then they can be
Unlisted?
What's that? Yeah, then there's private and unlisted. So so one of them is where it's still public. People can get to it if they have the link, and then other ones are totally private, where they can only get it if they're signed in and logged in. So it's for a specific person. So I mean, if it's a general company video about ABC Company's 401k plan, I mean, that's semi-public information anyway, because most of it's on the 5500. So it's not like I would have to worry about that link falling into the wrong hands or something like that. But it's still, it's still out there. But at least that way I can track. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, do you have a portal where like you enroll the new resource or employee or resource? You type in their first name, you type in their last name, you type in their email address, and you click enroll. Do they then get a series of emails and that like click here for the YouTube video, the welcome YouTube video, or do you like call them and say like, or how does that work? And I don't know, that just matters to me for some reason.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good question. I would say for onboarding process in the 401k industry, it's still very choppy, and part of that is because it's the data is going through the record keeper. So if you've got a Fidelity or Vanguard 401k, that's where the data is being pushed to. That's where the census file, and that's connecting with the payroll behind the scenes usually. And again, even that's dependent on the plan. To nerd out a little bit, sometimes they have what's called 360 integration, which is fully hands off by the employer. So an employee signs up for, they do their benefits package, maybe even on their phone. And then the payroll company sends it to the 401k provider. And then the 401k provider reaches out to the participant, the employee, without ever being touched by the employer, which is ideal, which is really nice. And then sometimes they have what's called 180 integration. So, John Smith logs in and he changes his contribution from $50 a month to $60 a month. And then the 401k company will email the business owner and say, hey, John Smith changed their contribution, go into your payroll system and change that. So it really depends on the setup a little bit. As the advisor, the data isn't necessarily coming to me. So that's why I've slowly started to build these connections with the 401k provider. So as soon as they're updated, I'm updated as well. So I can get that email out to them from my side that says, hey, John Smith at ABC Company, you're going to be getting an email from Fidelity and Vanguard about your new 401k. Here's what it means in plain English. Here's what it means. I'm in town if you want to meet me at, Dunkin' Donuts to go over this, or if you want me to stop by ABC Company after hours, I'll do that, and sort of get that, personal spin
in that same
on it.
email, will you have supporting links to those unlisted YouTube videos that you're
Yes.
describing?
Yep.
Here's some helpful videos to help you get started, kind of thing.
Yeah, and those are kind of one and done, once unless the plan design changes or whatever. So we can go that route. And then, I can even link them to some of my general public videos, which I have to do, some of those. Like I did a video earlier this year, like how to manage your 401k in a volatile market, or what you should be doing.
That's
Not
great.
to incite any extremist trading or anything like that. But again, that draws people back to the channel, or it can draw people back into my Facebook group, which is a mixture of participants and general public. So
That's good marketing content for you also, as an aside.
Yeah. So I think that stuff, as a smaller advisory firm, that I can do that a lot of the big companies, just because their compliance stuff won't, it'll sit on somebody's desk for 6 months before somebody signs off on it. So that's an area where I can be kind of quick and nimble there. When I started my firm, that was the idea, is kind of bring these big company, big, plan design features and those sort of ideas down to the local bakery with 5 employees. There's no reason they can't have a 401k that's as good as, United Healthcare or UTC or, somebody else in Connecticut. So allow them at least to be competitive from a benefit standpoint in that arena. So just keep wringing out the sponge, so to speak, right? You get there and then you change process, and you get there and you change process. So yeah, pretty excited about that.
It's exactly what I'm going through. It was my I don't want to say pet project, but for lack of a better word, my pet project for the last week or so. It's actually, in my company, I can have these like really heavy initiatives that have been on the table for months and in years, and at times, and then there's limited time to get to these initiatives, and there's a lot of learning and burden to it. And one of them has been, we rolled out an HR software, I don't know, a few years ago, with the intention of making the process for onboarding and offboarding resources. I say resources because it can include full-time, part-time, and what we call internal and external contractors. So for lack of better words, I'll just say employees now. So we rolled out an HR platform called Bamboo HR, for example, to be our source of truth and the genesis of the resource record, right? So Bamboo has this platform for creating your job listings, and then actually syndicating it right from the HR platform to Indeed, Glassdoor, Career Builder, and all these job posts. And then you can take your whole application and candidate process all in this platform and codify your process, and it just kind of keeps you in this application to deal with this workflow, which is wonderful. It does have the second piece of that initiative was onboard training, because for us, and I see this in many companies, especially professional service companies, if you're going retail, it's like, here's how you ring an item, here's how you take money, and here's how you give money back, right? And here's how you stock shelves. I mean, not to reduce what people do on retail or other businesses, because I'm sure like inventory, the inventory manager at Home Depot has quite a project, but for a professional services company, which is like a highly intellectual product, if you will, it's just the onboarding process, or the onboarding is really steep for new hires. So I always wanted to get a learning management platform where we could just, I can't tell you how many times I've trained a new employee on how to create a time entry, because we record our time. All of our time is accounted for because that's a billing item for many of our clients. And it's like a
Yeah. So a quick question on that before you go on. So your time that you're allocating, do you allocate that? So let's say somebody's working half an hour for ABC company specific, one of your clients, and then the next half hour they're working for something that helps all your clients. Is that how you tag it in the system?
Yes. So we track our time as accurately as possible from the client account first back to the general company. So if you're doing some business development effort that is not directly attributable to a client account, then it gets attributed to the parent, our company account. But the time does get recorded because payroll and compensation is linked to employee time. That's one of the KPIs. And for the biggest reason is, if besides accountability, time accounting is what allows us to track account profit and loss performance with a high degree of accuracy. So if three staff members or colleagues are having a meeting about a client, one of them may be revenue. Their time entry may be a revenue item, but two other parties may not be billing or invoicing their time, but they still are logging that time. Sometimes we invoice for all three parties. It depends. We have this metric that if it's not bringing direct value to the client, then it's not invoiceable, but we are recording the time, right? Because I'm paying for those resources to talk about that client. So what the client gets invoiced for is not necessarily what I'm paying my resources for, but that needs to be costed against the account so that I can see a true accurate reporting of the profit and loss position. So in order to do that, there's training. There's intense training. Intense. It's 50 minutes. I recorded it last week earlier this week. The training course on how to record time in EVERNET, and that turned out to be a over 50-minute recording training. And I've given it so many times. And by the end of the day, training a new employee, like I'm so exhausted. My vocal cords are literally strained. It's a highly technical process because we're in all of these softwares and things. And for a new trainee who may not have experience in our particular software, it's a very burdensome learning curve. It is a very steep learning curve. So the goal has always been, we started documenting our processes in text form many years ago. So all of our processes are documented in text form in our company knowledge base. But I wanted to go one step forward and say, what if I just built a whole curriculum for all of our processes, our tools, and all of the things that we do in video form? Well, what if I just record this next training with this person and then put it in the curriculum, And so I did that, and I'm nearly done, and that's what I've been doing this week, because our team, we're kind of in growth mode right now. And any of the viewers of our show know that you and I talk about our sales and marketing efforts a lot. And we've kicked that off at the beginning of this year, and we're growing, and we're growing fast. So we're bringing on new people. We're bringing on a lot of new people. And so one thing that I've been working on is building out our training material by recording it in video format and then building that curriculum.
Yeah, that's really neat. And that's one of those things that as you learn it and you work through the process, you're ultimately going to help clients implement that as well. So that's
I
pretty
mean,
cool.
it's something that our clients could definitely benefit from. But I'm just really thrilled about it because I'll never have to give a 50-minute training on how to record your time ever again. I'll just assign the training. And the cool thing is, if I can actually assign existing staff the trainings automatically. Like, let's say every year everybody has to take the training again, or every 2 years everybody has to take these trainings again, just to keep the uniformity up. Because I don't know if you know, like, sometimes policies tend to drift.
Sure.
Practices tend to drift, and then it's almost like that game Telephone, where, like, if this person is starting to drift and then train somebody and then they train somebody, like this process where like maybe management thinks that it should be happening here, but then like the downstream employees just drift in their implementation of the policy. So the learning management system, I can say, like, no, everybody's got to take this training every 24 months or 15 months or something like that. And it just kind of keeps that drift from happening.
Yeah, and that could be the cue for you to say, all right, what's in this video? I got to watch it, and what do I need to change? What sort of policies,
Exactly.
procedures, or sort of any HR technical stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really neat.
It's exciting. And just one more note on it. The tool that we are using is called Talent LMS.
Okay.
And LMS stands for Learning Management System. And you could actually run a whole like college with this software if you wanted to. But it does have small plans, free plans, and you can run different branches and all sorts of things. So you could build curriculums for clients. You could use it internally, but it's really cool. It has a lot of integrations and mobile apps. It's really a fascinating product. So
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So while we're on that topic, I wanted to share a piece of software that I guess I'm a little bit past the trial thing. I don't know if I'm on a monthly now, but it's called Motion. It's kind of an AI scheduling type tool. So
oh yeah, you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so I've been using it. There's a couple things that I'm not a super big fan of, but overall I like the idea and I like the concept. So basically it's this: you've got your hard-coded schedule. So let's say, we've got this scheduled for 9:30 every week. But let's say I'm going to, work out or something from 8 to 9 o'clock. So, but the system knows that, let's say I start my day at 6:30. That's when the wife and Luke leave at 6:30. So I have a bunch of tasks that are saved in there. Some are repeated. So let's say during the first week of every quarter, there's a half an hour project that I need to do. So that's in the system, but it's flexible in that it's not client specific or tied to a time. And that has a deadline of, Friday at 5 o'clock of, let's say, that first week. And then I've got something that needs to be done by next Monday. And then I've got a lot of, let's say, floating tasks, or, by the end of the week, I need to follow up with this person. So you can attach priorities. You can attach the repeatable tasks, like I said, and it will kind of fill in your schedule for you. So you can do 10-minute blocks, 15, whatever, and it will fill in around your general schedule. So, I'm probably like 70% of the way in on it. I know there's some other repeatable tasks, reoccurring, I guess is the correct word. They're reoccurring tasks that I want to put in there, by the end of the year to get those scheduled. Them, obviously we're starting a new year, starting a new month, starting a new quarter, all that kind of stuff in January. So I want to make sure I get those in there, but it is kind of nice to have those, to have it fill in around your schedule. So the way it works is if you log in at 6:30 in the morning and you suddenly realize that you got an email overnight that there's a fire you need to put out by noon, you can say, all right, I need to do this sometime before noon today. You put the task in, it'll rearrange everything else in your schedule based on the priority. And then,
does it communicate to any external parties or
no,
meetings?
because it doesn't move any of your fixed stuff. I mean, if you're part of a team, you can add team in and assign tasks and that sort of stuff. But so it's kind of interesting. I know there's some other similar type programs. I think Monday is something that does, but you're connecting you're logging in with your Microsoft ID, so it connects to your calendar. So, if somebody goes on my Calendly system and books an appointment, that goes on my, Microsoft schedule. And then so Motion knows that that's now a new hard appointment for 1 o'clock on Tuesday.
Are you
So it'll move other stuff around.
are you seeing immediate value with it, or are you still trying to suss out the value?
I have, and that sometimes what I want to do in the morning sometimes isn't what I should be doing or what I have to be doing. So it's nice that it kind of pre-populates that. And I know a lot of people have actually used it more for kind of self-care or maintenance or that kind of stuff. So they'll say, I need to do 15 minutes of meditation every day. But I don't need it to be every morning at 8 o'clock, so they'll put that in there as a daily priority and then kind of let Motion do the rest. So I've actually seen that, people use it in that way. I'm not that far yet. But I do like the concept of it. And for me, the way my brain works, it seems to sort of help me out there and prioritizing things and all that kind of stuff. So just figured I would share that with the group. So maybe I'll check back in a couple weeks and let you know how that journey's going.
I like tools like this, and I'm always slow to adopt them because I always view this as tools like this, like my photos library. I have my family teases me because I'm always taking photos of everybody and everything that we're doing. But I always look at tools like this where like it looks like there's a little bit of automation and logic to it, or automation or AI. I hate using AI if it's not AI, but I look at it like those like apps that proclaim to find duplicate photos in your photo library and clean and call out, you know what I mean? And I'm like,
nope.
Right, exactly, right? Like, no, I think I have like 60,000 images, right? Like, would you just turn that over to a computer or AI? Like, they've just proven to not be good enough yet. And then with this software, when it comes, this is like task management. Like, I've had tasks literally on my Outlook for years, like years. And it was only until maybe the past like 2 years, maybe 3 years, where like I finally developed the maturity to say like, oh, if I'm not doing it within like a month, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like I'm a reformed hoarder personally. Like when I was a kid, my mother died when I was 10. So like I started hoarding like all this stuff, and that's what people do when they suffer. Hoarders experience a major loss, and then they start collecting things to try to control and preserve. Anyways, when I realized in my 20s, I was like, oh my God, I have all this stuff from when I was a kid, like this, and then I learned about it, and now I'm a reformed hoarder. So like now I don't keep anything. I was like a task hoarder. I had all these tasks, but then at the same time, like I won't do what I'm not going to do. So does the software put these tasks in front of you that you just kind of keep kicking down the can?
Yeah, so you could have a start date and a due date. So that's happened to me already in just the 3 or 4 weeks, or I've put something in there that was maybe just an idea, and obviously there's a mobile app as well. So if I'm out somewhere, I'll have an idea and I'll put it in as like a 10-minute task, just so it puts it on my calendar, and then it'll pop up. I'll move it, pop up, I'll move it, and I'll say, you know what? I like this. Let me file away. It's just not a now project. So then I can just kill it or mark it as complete or whatever. Right. But it gives you a chance to kick the can a few miles down the road, but not all the way. So but yeah, you can sort of change that and whatever. But yeah, same sort of thing. I don't like to let ideas go away, or I don't like to say I can't do that or won't do that. But at some point, I mean, there's only so many hours in the day.
So true. I tend to email myself. I email. I've been using this subject line called topic, and I'll email myself with the subject line topic : and then I'll just whatever the idea is. And then if I have a notes, I'll just email myself, because the indexing and searchability of email is so good now that and then I use the read and unread state of my email as as my honey-do list or to-do list, you know,
Yep.
and and that's what I do. So like if I send myself an idea or a to do and I keep it as unread, and I generally like to get my stuff done, so I move things to read. If I'm not doing it and I want to kick the can, I just mark it unread, and then it's just
Mhm.
there. And if I ever want to go like I need something to do, or I remember wanting to do this sort of thing, I can just research topic, and then I can kind of pull up all my topics, and then I can, which I guess the to do function would work in the same exact way. I tend to live kind of out of email as a primary tool.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, email's still where it's at. Yeah, I'm the annoying guy that when I'm driving, if my wife's in the car, I'll almost always drive. Not because she's a bad driver, I'm just a bad passenger. But I'm the guy that's like, "Oh, Lauren, can you text me this? Can you text me this
Yeah,
as I'm
yep,
driving?" And I'm
yep.
that guy, which I know is super annoying. I wouldn't like it, but I
I've
do it
asked
anyway.
my wife to do the same thing
Yeah.
numerous occasions.
Yeah, or I'll even say like, so we'll send each other calendar invites for like actual like specific things, but I'll be like, all right, can you put something in my calendar for next Thursday or whatever. Um,
Do you have Apple Play or CarPlay or Android Auto in your car?
so yeah, yeah, long story. But so when we bought our Volvo, it was the first wave of that new like redesigned model that people liked. So Volvo had the big boxy like XC90 and whatever for a lot of years, and then they switched to the more streamlined one. So when we got that, the guy was like, "Oh yeah, this is the system and everything. It's got to have Apple Play and Google Play, and it's coming out. Just let us know. Come back, get the update. Come back. Let us know." And we were sold on that, and we didn't like get anything in writing or whatever. And then when we came back for our first service, I was like, "Oh yeah, you can add these to our system because they were now available." And then they wanted to hit us for, I don't know, $350 or something. I was like, "Yeah, your guy said that this wasn't available yet, but it was going to be available." And they're like, "Oh, do you have the documents?" It's like, all right, whatever. So just out of pure spite, I'm not going to get those for the
You don't
car.
throw away Christmas trees, so you're not spending 350 on Android
Well, it's
Auto.
just, yeah, I mean, and I'm sure it would add some sort of value or whatever, but it's not that big a deal for us. Like
Oh,
we don't, I mean, we play music off our phones sometimes, but for the most part, I mean, we can do it. We can use a voice command on both of our phones to do whatever we need to do anyway. So I'm sure there's some sort of advantages there, but this doesn't really interest me. So
I
you hit
use
on a
the
sore spot for me.
Sorry about that. I mean, I've been
Uh,
dreaming about this for years. My car is a 2008, so it's a 14-year-old Pathfinder. Um, and I've never had Bluetooth in a car before,
mhm.
other than the one I've added. So it's kind of funny. But for years, I'm like, oh, I've been using the location field in my calendar for years, right? Because the cool thing
Yeah.
is when all the mapping and the smartphones started saying, wow, okay, if you do populate the location field when you want to go to navigate on your mobile device, we can have an API hook where if we read a location, you can send that to your mapping app, and then
Mhm.
and it kind of helps you get to where you're going easily. Kind of it's an easy workflow, right?
Yep.
And then for years, I'm like, oh my god, it'd be amazing if cars would come out with like well, back then it was a Microsoft Exchange. I was like, why they need an Exchange client in the car. So
Mhm.
when I get in the car, it's reading my calendar, which reads the location data, which will then tap into the mapping. But that turned out to be in the form of, I think, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and and now I just dream about the novelty of what that must be like for all those people who have that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the voice commands sort of. So we have the navigation system in the Volvo, but all the car navigation systems are terrible. I mean, the
Yeah,
ones
they're
on the
awful.
phone are infinitely better. So we
But the
never
Android
even.
Auto and the Apple CarPlay bring in your mobile phone
They
experience
do.
on that display.
Yeah, yeah, they do. But we use our phones when we're traveling anyway, just because it's easier to. I mean, yeah, it's easier to do it on your phone anyway. But yeah, same sort of thing. Um, I put the location in if I'm meeting somebody, and then as I'm walking out the door, I'll just the alert pops up that says, hey, you got to
Right.
go
Right.
meet Eric in 15 minutes anyway.
Well,
So
what
I
if
just click on
but what
that.
if the phone stayed in your pocket, it stayed in your briefcase,
Yeah.
in your coat, and then your phone display applies to your screen, and then there's
Mhm.
my calendar, there's my location, pull up the, you're an Android guy, right?
Yeah.
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 So bring up your Android, whatever. Boom.
So, yeah, but so riddle me this potential failure in that system. So my office is above the garage. It's connecting part of the house. So I've had times when I've gotten in my car, see that my phone's connected, left, got a couple of miles down the road and realize I don't have my phone with me, you know? So I mean that does happen. So at least I know if it's in my hand and I'm doing whatever, like, so there's
Right.
still an advantage to doing that. But I mean
Okay,
the
old
cars are
school.
so,
I'll let you have it.
yeah. So it's funny sometimes when I'll get in the car, my wife will be on the phone. I'll pull out of the driveway. Now I'm listening to her phone call
Yeah.
until I get to the end of the driveway. It's just,
Yeah.
and supposedly when I'm in the car with my key, the car is supposed to know that it's me and connect to my phone. But again,
Right.
theory versus practice. So
Right. Right. All right, that's it for today. You're watching Finance and Technology Insights with Brian Williams, Eric Buhrendorf. I'm CEO of EVERNET Consulting, an IT company across the nation. Brian is Northshire Consulting. He does, what do you do, Brian? 401k consulting, advisory,
all
and
that good stuff.
advisory.
Connecticut-based investment advisory firm. You can find us online at northshireconsulting.com. Social media handles are 401k and beyond. And
Excellent.
that's it.
I'm on evernetco.com is our website. Schedule a discovery call with me there. And we are EvernetCO as all social tags. I like to have that uniform on all the social tags. So find us there. And that's it. We'll see you next Tuesday.